The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Episode number 72, and it is 256 days till the man burns as of this recording. The new year is afoot, and my resolution is to release a new episode on every first and third Wednesday of the month. Some of you may be thinking, oh, you sly, dusty devil, you're already doing that. And you would be correct. I already am. See, if you aim low and shoot high, you'll never have to disappoint yourself or anyone else for that matter. I also plan to continue breathing and eating buffalo chicken quesadillas from byDJ Express. That last one doesn't seem particularly healthy. But look, over the years, I've made all kinds of amazing leaps in personal development, like getting into running and now swimming. I've quit sugar. I quit the ability to get offended. Basically, I've never met a self-help seminar I didn't like. But man, there are two things I just can't fucking quit, no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I try to self-hypnotize and how much willpower I try to build up. I can't quit mayonnaise and buffalo chicken quesadillas. Those are my two addictions. And I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and accept them and stop feeling guilty about those two things. But anyway, as you listen to this intro and ask yourself, what the fucking fuck does any of this have to do with anything? Producer Rebel Dharma and I are getting packed and ready to head out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona for an epic New Year's Eve so we can party with the crew of Camp Walter. You know Camp Walter, the kaleidoscope, the giant VW bus. On episode number 70 of this show, you got to hear a set by Tony the Man in Pink and Amanda Marks, Violin Girl, on the Kaleidoscope art car at Camp Walter from this past burn. While we're out there, we will be, of course, recording an interview with the Walter crew and getting to know their history and culture. So stay tuned for that episode in the coming year in 2018. And this is great synchronicity because I've had multiple people randomly tell me, hey, you should really do a Camp Walter episode. And Troy was the first one to tell me that, like right after we finished recording our Breakfast at Troy Finney's episode. And then people just kept bringing up Camp Walter to me randomly, like every other day. It was very strange. And there's got to be some divine reason that this is happening. And I'm looking forward to figuring out what that is. Today, however, we're going to be sitting down with the extremely handsome Torrey Pines Smith, the inspiring force behind Camp Sextant. This is one of those very predominant camps and art collectives that won't need much introduction if you've been on Playa. I think that giant fucking Tesla coils kind of give them away pretty quickly. Last year when I was camp with Perky Parts, we did some serious day drinking under their tower. So anyway, you'll hear more about their art projects and stuff. And if you really want to get even more background on Sextant, check out their episode on Into the Fire, hosted by Super Suze, which you can find links over at burnerpodcast.com. And if you're one of those ultra geeks who likes to follow along, visit sextantcamp.com. Sextantcamp.com. And I'd suggest not doing that at work because, I mean, there's like nothing raunchy or anything on there, but you know, your IT department might just see the word sex and think you're, I don't know, masturbating at work. Anyway, it's fitting that this is the next episode that you're hearing after Otto Von Dangers because, as you'll hear, Torrey, a.k.a. Sarge, references Burn Wall Street as the thing that made him want to build. Torrey was so candid with us. It was really a beautiful experience talking to him. I go into these interviews with a general thought of where I'm thinking I'm going to guide the conversation to. And most often what happens is the story guides me in a totally different place. And Torrey shares his challenges as he develops his leadership style, his confidence in building. And then we get into territory that I've heard so many stories while navigating the entertainment industry and while hosting the other show that I do called Crappy Awesome. But I feel like this was the first time that we've gotten that deep into this territory on this show and in the Burning Man world for me, for as far as stories go. The story of what happens when you get consumed by your obsessions and how a rising celebrity status can affect one's ego and focus and relationships. Torrey's star rising at Burning Man was, I guess, meteoric is the word, and it came at great costs. And you'll hear on today's interview all about what happened. So we'll start with the geekery, as we always do, and then it gets into a true hero's journey style tale of redemption. And of course, Sextant and Sarge's stories are far, far from over. And today's show will be like a recap of the last season to hype you up for the upcoming season premiere of As the Sextant Turns. I should also mention that this episode was recorded over at Moxie in Oakland. As you guys know, the ghost ship tragedy from last year really caused a tidal wave of regulation enforcement in the region, and the Sextant crew had to move from Tech Shop, which was closed down, and set up shop at Moxie. You can learn more about Moxie. It's spelled with a 0, by the way, the number 0, over at moxie.com. That's spelled M0xy.com. Shout out to Atticus Wolf, founder and executive director, who busts his ass to provide such a wonderful space for makers to keep making. And then after the talkie emotional stuff, stay tuned for an hour of a set from DJ BamBoom, whom you might remember as Ian Shore. Mr. Ian Shore, one of the guests over at episode number 53 with the Mystical Misfits. This set was recorded on opening Sunday at sunset at the Misfit Camp on Playa. It's a super fun and playful mix to make you grin stupid, and you absolutely need to stay after the interview so that I can tell you all about why Ian had to leave the burn on his own birthday on Tuesday. Cliffhanger. But now let's link up with Torrey Pines Smith, aka Sarge. Today's episode is entitled At All Costs. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for the you get no name.
San Diego, we have tons of burners, big, vibrant community. But there's a lot of places where they don't have this. And the one time a year they experience it is when they go to Burning Man.
This provides people with content that they can dip into to be part of that. More importantly, if someone likes what they see or wants to do stuff like they see, you can listen to this content or watch it, and that can help you start your project.
Yeah. No, that's ultimately the idea, because I think what I've definitely experienced through all my years exploring the arts and watching different people starting and stopping is that there are some little questions that people have that they never even thought of having. Like just even, right. Your experience, like you're walking around here and showing us the space that we're in and being able to come in here and use this space in order to fix the sound. And
sure,
it's like 1,000 little things that people are concerned about and worried about that stops them from just starting. and being able to show people like, hey, we're all figuring it out.
I think the story of Sextant and our Tesla Coil is more like a story of just not quitting. It's like anything to get struck with some vision and you just start doing it. The first generation of our Tesla Coil doesn't look very much like what you would see out at Burning Man sparking, but it was enough for us to rally around, and it came to define us.
Yeah. What was the first year that you had the Tesla Coil out there?
Well, I first went to Burning Man in 2012. I was dragged, essentially kicking and screaming, by a good friend of mine. We were at the tip of Baja on a road trip, and it was one of those magical road trips that is like a seminal moment in your life. And he's like, "Look, you need to come to Burning Man." And so I capitulated, and we went out and we open camped. And
I'm sorry, what year was this?
2012.
Okay.
So
can I ask what was it that your friend was seeing in you that was saying you need to come to Burning Man? What was his pitch?
It could have been my van. I had this great 4x4 van that I grew up on, sort of the hippie wagon train in like Mexico and Central America with my dad, and he had actually built a little dirt floor cabin in the mountains in the eastern Sierra Nevada. He was a hang glider pilot, and I was born there, and so throughout my childhood we'd be traveling around and like push starting our crappy cars because they'd never start. And sometimes you'd see these adventure vans rolling through, right? And I was like, man, one day. So anyways, one day I ended up in one of those things with a ragtag crew of friends, and Burning Man was the thing. And so I just sort of went out there with a totally open slate to check it out.
Did you grow up down there? Did you eventually move here?
My parents took me out of the desert relatively early and settled me in Santa Cruz, which was a wonderful place to grow up.
Yeah, so your parents were creative people as well?
They were creative, yeah. Like I said, my dad was a hang glider pilot who was part of these international hang gliding competitions where pilots would come from all over the world to the Owens Valley, which is almost like the Mavericks, the big wave surfing crew.
Yeah.
The Owens Valley in the Eastern Sierra is sort of like the Mavericks of hang gliding. And there was this chapter where these crazy hippies were raising kids and flying hang gliders.
Yeah. So from an earlier age, you already had an awareness, a comfort with adventure and being in new places. And
adventure was really fun.
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest challenges for me has been engaging the world at large. It's easy for me to go to Burning Man and build something incredible. It's kind of hard for me to go back to the world sometimes and find my real place in it. And I'm still trying to find that balance.
Do you feel that there's something in default that's calling to you that you haven't found yet? I mean, what is it about real? Like what makes the difference between what you're experiencing out there versus I'm going to have to be normal out there a little bit?
Well, ultimately, I don't really see a disconnect between Burning Man and the real world. And the real world has always been extremely giving, kind, and gracious to me. I guess I'm just, given the limited amount of time that we all have, I'm trying to find some kind of a connection to what I do for a living that is visceral in some way.
Yeah.
With Burning Man, I definitely get that. Out in the real world, also, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ultimately ended up becoming an aerospace engineer, and from there went on to work in medical devices. And so, I get to play with blood squirting all over the place and trying to make a device that will, treat some kind of illness. And
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I want to know, so what were you doing in 2012 out in the quote-unquote real world when you got called to Burning Man?
Okay, so I was designing effectively a roto-rooter for your arteries. And it's a catheter you snake into the arteries through a puncture in the leg.
Oh,
and
cringe.
It's cringy, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what we would do is use that catheter to mechanically cut away and remove plaque from the inside of blood vessels. And so it really is like a roto-rooter in the sense that you're opening up flow, but we would just sort of consume and suck out that gunk and pull it on out. And basically we were saving people's legs that were going to get amputated otherwise.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Super cool, right?
Yeah. So you're doing this kind of work here in Baja. Burning Man comes up, and go ahead.
Burning Man comes up, and I'm super skeptical. Like, I'm thinking, come on, man. I spent my whole life trying to get some traction in this world. Bless my parents. I love them dearly. They're awesome. But it's kind of weird growing up a hippie kid and then engaging the world, right? And so I was kind of thinking, like, I had come from Burning Man, more or less, and I was trying to leave that world and go find something else. And so it took me a while to sort of come full circle and realize, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. That's so funny. In all the years that I've been interviewing different people, like, that's a thing that has come up with multiple artists that we've interacted with over the years. Because, like, my creative partner and I, who host the other show, for example, we've always daydreamed about having artist parents that would be more supportive of this ridiculous path that we've chosen in life, right? And then we have this opportunity to sit down with other artists who do have that. They had the kind of parents that were like, yeah, go do whatever the fuck you want to do, and here is the way to do it. And I'm blown away by how many of them have had the same experience as you, which is there's this still demand from mainstream society to say, like, no, you should go get this kind of job and wear these kind of clothes and go to this kind of work. Still trying to find a way to connect in there somehow.
The funniest thing my boss did when I told him I was going to Burning Man was that he said, awesome, I want to hear all about it, right? But then he threw me a curveball and he said, I need you in Germany doing clinical trials Tuesday after the burn.
Oh, man.
And I still didn't know very much about Burning Man at that time, but I was aware of the concept of exodus and this long traffic jam. And I was like, man, this is like a 24-hour traffic jam under worst case scenario. And I looked at him and I said, are you willing to sign a really interesting expense report? And what we did is I actually found a charter company that would land a Cessna 206 on the dry lake bed, and I could get on that and they would take me to Reno.
Wow.
And this was my first burn, so I really had no idea what I was doing. And it was bizarre. Like, we had this wonderful experience. We camped. We made all sorts of friends with people we thought we would never be friends with. Like, total rednecks next to us ended up being the coolest people ever, right? And by the end of it, we were, I've gone to regional burns with them.
Yeah.
It really opened my mind. But it was very weird at the end of Burning Man 2012, patting my own van on the door as my friend drives it away, leaving me with my backpack. To then find my way out to the airport and hopefully get on a plane.
Like that scene in the movie where, like, people get in cars and they always, like, tap, pat, pat, like, pat the back of the van or the car.
Exactly.
Like, go ahead, get out of here.
All right, guys, have fun. and I just remembered I was so exhausted. I kept phasing in and out of consciousness, like on that flight to Reno, and then the airline flights that eventually took me to Switzerland, and then I got on a train, and then a bus, and then a taxi.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. I'm sorry, so it was like a two-seater or something that landed to pick you up at the airport?
That was a Cessna 206, which I think is a six-seater.
Okay.
I think.
Wow.
And there were a couple other people that had bought seats on it, right?
Yeah.
But I kept phasing in and out of consciousness on the airliners, and I could see the curtains in between the areas, and it reminded me of this Turkish tent that I had been in at Burning Man. It was so cool, and I kept forgetting where I was and what I was doing.
Fever dream on the flight.
But interestingly enough, ever since then, I drive my van to and from Burning Man, towing whatever project we have. But airplanes have actually been part of some of the most exciting times at Sextant on Playa.
Wow.
So, like, if we fast forward to 2016, we had built a giant Tesla coil. We had spent, years working on it and failing, and having it not spark. And we would bring it to Burning Man, and it wouldn't work. And we would take it back to the bay, and we would keep working on it. Eventually, we got it to work right here at Moxie, a few feet from us. And we thought we had it. We had people over. They saw the sparks. a Tesla coil is basically a machine that creates lightning. We figured we had this one locked down. We took it out to Playa and nothing worked. The length of the power cable from our generator to the Tesla coil was different than it had been, and that ended up being a part of the circuit and having an effect. Long story short was, during build week, we ended up frying all of our circuitry. We had a couple of spares. We fried all our spares.
Of course.
And by Friday of the build, we had nothing. And that's when one of our campmates walked our electrical engineer who envisioned the Tesla coil, a guy by the name of Dan Moyer, out to the airport with one of our Israeli startup guys, this guy named Pavel, genius. And the guy running the charter service was like, well, I can fly you guys to Palo Alto, but that's like, $1 bajillion. But he noticed that our guy was wearing his ranger outfit, and he was wearing a ranger outfit, so one of the volunteer rangers at Burning Man. And he looks to his coworker and he's like, if you ever have the opportunity to help a ranger, you do it. And he said, this one's on us.
Wow, that's awesome.
So he flies my guys to Palo Alto, and they spend 18 hours soldering up fresh circuit boards, and then they hitchhike back to Burning Man proper with a friend.
Oh my God.
And they go in normal through the gates and everything. They get back out sometime Monday, Tuesday. They spend about 36 hours troubleshooting it, and eventually by Wednesday at Burning Man 2016, we had sparks.
Wow.
And it was for me a huge moment to finally see this thing come full circle.
Yeah, no, that's without a doubt. So I want to go back and fill in all these gaps. Yeah, that's the way. You know what it is? The structure of these interviews a lot of times ends up being like an action movie, where like it starts out with a big fight scene, and it goes back and tells the story again. So to get you hooked in. But
let's do it.
So 2012. First of all, I would like to share with you that we've had a lot of like very gangster like entry stories, but this is the first super gangster exodus story I've ever heard. Like, I'm just going to get on a plane and fly right over it. First time while you're out there, at some point in the week, and I know there's multiple experiences, but what was sort of the closest thing to an aha moment that you had out there of like, oh, I get this. I am coming back. And I'm bringing a fucking Tesla coil. Like, I'm going to come out and be a part of this. It
was a combination of things. Burn Wall Street by Otto von Danger and La Llorona. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The sunken ship that Matt Schultz built with the Pure crew. Those two projects just completely unseated my sense of what the fuck is going on here? Like, seriously. I mean, obviously, David Best's Temple of Juno, you see these things, and you're like, okay, so my hippie parents didn't do this kind of stuff, right?
So let's wait for that loud motorcycle go by.
It's kind of awesome.
We hear you. You're great. You're awesome. Okay, good.
I was kind of expecting Burning Man to either just be sort of a debaucherous party, which, you know what, there was a part of me that was actually kind of be like, okay, cool, let's go to a big party. This will be fun. But then I was also kind of expecting to see like a lot of, I don't know, low-grade, hokey stuff. I was like, how cool could this be? I mean, it's just a dry lake bed. We're camping. What are you going to do? Put a little cool sign up and have a little mini bar? What's this really all about? And then you see Burn Wall Street. Then you see the ship. And it just, it completely unseated my sense of what was possible, what was impossible. You see people building projects that, in my little techie world of startup companies, I mean, that's like the budget of a early startup company. Mm-hmm. And people are building a project that is destined to burn down almost as soon as they finish building it. Yeah. And that riddle is something I've been trying to unravel ever since. What really got me, though, was I was wandering around the neighborhood, and I saw this little zip line that someone had set up. And I had seen Burn Wall Street. I had seen the big ship, and the temple, and these amazing projects. And I saw this mellow zip line. And all of a sudden, this part of me got kind of, some negative, arrogant, bad part of me was like, this ain't Burning Man, I want the drive-by shooting gallery that I've seen pictures of, right? Mm. And then I realized, hold up. You appear to have an opinion, right? What are you going to do about it, right? And that's when I realized, if I'm dissatisfied with this zip line, which was actually really awesome, and the people that run it are really awesome, so I need to be careful about how much I tread. If I've got an opinion, Burning Man is the place where I can go ahead and express myself. And so we came back the next year with Sextant. No Tesla coil. It was a dome and a 36-foot tower on top of that, where we strung a really scary zip line. Mm. And
can I interject real quick? The thing you were describing, by the way, about zip line, I've had that experience over and over and over again on Playa, where I will look at something and I will judge it for a second.
Right.
This is bullshit. What is this? And then, like, really, when I think about it, and a lot of times it'll be even afterwards when I explore it. Yeah. And I'll have the opportunity to talk to people through this podcast. And I'm like, oh, I see the thought that went into that. That's actually pretty awesome.
What's been allowing me so far to not burn out,
no pun
because
intended.
Burning Man revs your emotions. Yeah. It can lead to incredible expectations of what you're going to get out of life. And if you start to expect a lot from Burning Man, from the organization, from the event, from the people around you, you're just setting yourself up for failure, right? What I have come to understand is that the true gift to me that I get from doing Burning Man is I get the playa. I get a clean slate, an empty canvas, and a legal license to build. I built that geodesic dome and tower and zip line, and I tried to set it up in the empty lot next to my house. But the landowner came by and was like, "What are you doing?" and I had to say, "You know what? I'm sorry. I'm doing a risky thing here, not on my own property, and actually that's not cool. I apologize. I'm going to leave now." And he was totally cool. But it was just you start to realize, like, this last year at Burning Man, I got a 100 by 400 square foot piece of playa where I could literally build anything I wanted. And not only was I given permission to do it, but they celebrate us. Yeah. And that celebration, that acclaim, that's like a whole chapter in its own right, because that can go to your head fast. And I don't know anyone that it's gone to their head more so than me.
I want to talk about that. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing about this community. It celebrates your differences, not our differences. It doesn't just tolerate it. That's the thing.
That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. I realized last year, ultimately, Burning Man, I'm never going to blame my divorce on anything but myself. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that I went crazy and wanted to build, and we parted ways because we grew apart. But I think, honestly, I just fucked that up. I suddenly realized I wanted to build, and all of a sudden I lost any sense of balance or respect for others. Like, I think I was honestly holding other people hostage for the sake of building Burning Man art. I would say, who do you think you are not to help me build this? What are you doing in your life that's more important than what I'm doing in my life here to go to Burning Man? This is selfish crap, but I can at least recognize that I've done it and maybe try to grow from it. So,
you had a coming out as an artist.
I like to build stuff, and I would like to do that in a way that doesn't hurt other people. Yeah.
The coming out thing, like, this is an experience that I've had and I've observed, is like, I've had multiple gay friends that were very much in the closet for the first huge chunk of their lives. And, like, so when they came out, I had a couple of friends that I can think of back in San Diego, like, they went, like, way over the top with how, like, openly, it's like, you could not get through 2 fucking sentences without a dick joke. Like, all right, I get it. Right. And I had a similar experience as an artist. Like, when I had this, like, statement, like, I am an artist. I just want to jump on a table and take a shit and call it art. And it was like this overwhelming thing that starts to take over. And then you eventually find this balance of, wait a minute, there isn't a difference between the playa and the real world. I'm still this human being that is interacting with both of them. Those relationships matter. Right. And it sounds like you had that kind of experience.
I think last year, 2016, I was on a wild bender. My wife had left, and rightfully so. And I was suddenly single in the Burning Man community, which is interesting, right? Yeah. And and in a lot of ways wonderful, but I was throwing a huge temper tantrum. And at some point recently, I realized that I think I've caused more heartbreak than I received from the divorce in these last 2 years. And I realized if I keep going on this path, I could become so ugly that I could go out and build the most beautiful piece of art the world had ever seen, and it would be completely polluted by the person who built it. And this has been sort of something I've been grappling with in the last year or so, is just I'm trying and struggling to find that inner happy maker that just loves to make cool stuff and share it with people. I want to be that guy so bad. And yet, you know, we're in this community where it's extremely, well, this is fun, right? And I'm just trying to see if there's more to me than just kind of some asshole playboy that made a little Tesla coil and is now partying because of it, and using that as an excuse to like satisfy your base desires. Like that, I think that's how I started to paint myself last year.
Right.
And so I hope that I'm coming back from that and taking a deep breath, because there's some stuff I want to build. There are still things I want to contribute. Huge things. If I can just get over myself. But to anyone listening, I need to like acknowledge that, like, that sounds like the right thing to say. And if I say the right thing, that doesn't mean I'm living it, right? It is a constant daily struggle. I feel like right now in my Burning Man career, as a person, I love myself at my best, and I'm terrified of myself at my worst. And I'm trying so hard to just step beyond all that pain and all that scarcity and just let it go and just be this guy, be this happy guy.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to wish myself luck because I think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
But it was only in the last year or so that I really started to realize, like, okay, dude, you don't have many more chances, right?
Were you married in 2012 when you went to your first one?
I was.
Did she go with you?
She didn't come in 2012. She met me at the airport on my way to Germany. She said, "Do you still want to be married?" And I said, "Abso-fucking-lutely." And then I went.
Why did she ask that?
I think because she knew that Burning Man was going to affect me, that it was going to affect me deep under my skin.
Could she not go? Or was she not interested?
She wasn't really inclined to go the first year. I think she was actually really generous in saying, you know what, go with your buddies.
Right.
Go on this adventure. Do it. I trust you. Go play and go explore. And I did, and it was fun. And then I came back and was like, you have to come with me, and we're going to be building stuff. And there were very, very positive elements to that. It was not by any means all bad. But,
right.
But I mean, if you look at 2015, right before she left, I was at a local makerspace, which just shut down, sadly, called Tech Shop, where I would be on the CNC machines running plywood for either the Tesla Coil or some of the other art projects I was sort of collaborating with. I would be at Tech Shop till 5 a.m. in the middle of the week, multiple nights a week, come home, go to sleep for 90 minutes, get up, take a shower, and go work 9 to 5, and then go straight to Tech Shop. And I had gotten myself into a point where I was 180 degrees off of where I should have been with regards to how I was doing that relationship, right? I'm
sorry, this window of time between 2012 2015.
Yeah.
You come back, obviously, with this fire under your ass.
Sure.
You want to build shit. And, I mean, even the stuff that you're doing with medical science, to some extent, could be argued that you're looking at the build and the machinery in the human body. It just happens to be, organic.
Oh, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Anything I make or design, if it's for Burning Man or for medical devices or any other thing, or one of my passions, aviation, right? Like, it's all going to be the same thing. It's building a sandcastle as a kid, You're just following your creative bliss.
Did Burning Man affect your work in the medical technology?
it's a mixed bag because it caused me to suddenly care deeply about something that wasn't work, right? So it took a lot of my attention away.
Yeah.
But it also made me vastly more ambitious in terms of what kind of a creator and an engineer I was going to be. So I came back from Burning Man, and it was like, well, shit, I now have to build things. And so I started learning how to run CNC machines, laser cutters, water jets. I learned how to weld. I learned how to do wood shop, metal shop. I did things that I in the past had been intimidated and scared to try to learn. But I came back from Burning Man and I was like, that's it. I have to learn this right now because I need to. We got a Tesla coil to build, and apparently it's got a 980-pound steel base for this mast, and we need to make that.
So your understanding of the human body and medical machinery, like, it would be fair to say that gave you kind of an edge on how you learned how to work on this kind of machinery. You had some learning, like maybe a smaller learning curve than the average person.
Well, I was very fortunate to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to become an aerospace engineer. They're a learn by doing college, and they were all about, oh, you want to make something? Go to the machine shop, right? Make it. They do it. Get your hands dirty. Design it on the computer, and then build it in the machine shop, and then compete with it.
Yeah.
There was a program called Design, Build, Fly, where you design, build, and fly a scale airplane and compete with other kids. And
you already had the muscle memory, so it was easy to translate to this new medium.
Well, yeah, my dad, like on that wagon train, he to his credit as a totally, progressive hippie, loved jets and science fiction, and he would take me to air shows and he would teach me how to carve propellers out of driftwood, and you'd mount them on a nail and put them on a stick outside the window, and they'd spin as you were driving. Right. My dad and my mother really worked hard to make sure that as a kid I was just fostered creatively.
Yeah, you've been referring to we throughout this conversation. So let's introduce the listeners to who you're referring to, how the idea for the Tesla Coil came together, Sextant. Tell us about this ragtag team that came together, and apparently there's Israeli investors too.
Yeah, I'd like to find some investors. That's a separate story.
Oh, okay.
We sort of self-fund this, right? But a lot of people.
Who's we?
A lot of people think of Torrey. I go by Sarge because I guess I'm a little bossy, as the Tesla Coil guy. When in reality, Sextant this year on Playa was 58 people. And 59% of those people were first-time burners.
Wow.
And many of them actually came out a full week before the event to build. And I had them up in the top of the tower working with a crane. And that, to be able to create a family that I call Sextant is something I'm incredibly proud of. And it's something that is also deeply challenging for me to sort of live up to the fatherly, kind, good Sarge that people want me to be and are ready for me to be, and not to be some kind of arrogant playboy that thinks he's cool because he built a thing.
Right.
So we go to Burning Man 2012. A core group of those folks joined me because clearly we were destined to do great things at Burning Man. So we come back in 2013. I founded Sextant. Sextant is a navigational instrument. Sailors use it to calculate their latitude. At noon, you measure the angle between the horizon and the sun, and you can look up in a chart what latitude that corresponds to. So it's this really cool symbol of sort of scientific adventure. So Sextant was founded by myself, this amazing Russian aerospace engineer named Gene Gissin, and a good friend of mine named Dan Moyer. And we did our first year on Playa with a zip line and a dome. As we were moving into the 2014 cycle, we had been out in the neighborhood. We were so happy to be placed at all, right? It was a huge honor. But we saw the Esplanade and we thought, we want to contribute at that level. We want to be a part of that glittering cityscape that you see. I mean, that Black Rock City means so much to me. to be able to contribute to it is a huge honor. And I was approached by my friend Dan. We usually call him Dan because he's like he's so cool he gets two Dans. So Dan comes up to me. He's like, "Hey Sarge, I've always wanted to build a big Tesla coil," and he's an electrical engineer, very brilliant young kid. And he's like, "Can I build a Tesla coil for the camp? Right? It could be like part of our frontage." And I was thinking, cool, And initially I was just thinking, okay, this is like a side project. I want to build my tower taller. I get sort of single-minded sometimes.
Bigger is always better.
But I said, sure, absolutely. And as we started digging into the Tesla coil, I said, okay, well, how big is big? And he said, I want to build it 5 feet tall. I was like, okay, that's pretty big. And he said, what
was the biggest one that you guys had seen till then?
Many people will remember Dr. Megavolt from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That system, I think that's on the order of about 15 feet tall.
15 feet, okay. Yeah, that was pretty big.
Big Tesla coil, really cool guy. Dr. Megavolt is a whole nother story.
Right.
He actually taught me one of the most important things about Burning Man, which is you do not allow yourself to build up expectations from Burning Man, or it will kill your joy. One of the reasons that Dr. Megavolt no longer attends is that the lore is that he built this amazing Tesla coil and brought it out for many years, and then eventually I think he applied for like some form of grant to refurbish it. Mm-hmm. And at the time, he got a response of some kind to the effect of, "Hey, we're here to finance new art, not so much refurbish art that's already there." And from what I understand, it kind of pissed him off, And this isn't a situation where you have right and wrong, good guys or bad guys, but for whatever reason, he ended up expecting something that he didn't get. He got upset, and he chose to not come.
Right.
I learned that very early in my career when I was calling anyone that had built a Tesla coil, and trying to get backstories and advice, and that was important for me because that's helped me to stay fresh, which is just be grateful for that piece of playa that you're not getting kicked off of by the landowner.
It's a running theme, isn't it? What is your carrot on a stick? Like, what is the thing that makes you pour all this heart and energy into it? And sometimes these lines start to get blurred. For example, as an artist, like you're having a similar experience where you had this drive to create something, and then all of a sudden gradually, the things that were giving you the serotonin boost, the rewards you were getting out of it, started to become surface level.
Absolutely.
And then at some point you get lost and you're like, you forget why you even set out to do this thing.
This year I had a total no-joy experience. Not the whole burn, but one important thing is Sextant had become defined by the Tesla coil. My wife left. I kept building it. We came to Moxie. It was a big risk to come here. I pay more rent for the Moxie space where Sextant lives than I do for my house.
Wow.
And so for me, this adventure is one that comes at great cost and great sacrifice. And I'm not anywhere near close to letting it go. But the Tesla coil had come to define us, and more importantly, the struggle of the Tesla coil. There was almost a cult following us, wondering if we're ever going to get it to work, but also kind of amazed that we hadn't given up. And this year in 2017, we brought a Tesla coil that was polished. That thing works. You flip it on, you turn it on, it works. And we might blow a circuit, but we have spares. And we now have a margin of performance. So when I set that thing up, I can tell you, we're going for record length sparks, so we're going to set it 20 feet apart. You might not get a full bridge all the time, but when you do, that's a big deal. It's a known quantity. So I was up in my tower this year, and the Tesla coil is just going off in front of me. And there's this big crowd around it, and we had set up a little MIDI keyboard so people could play the piano via the Tesla coil.
Yeah.
That was cool, right? And I'm in my tower, which means I'm at Wunderbar, right? You can't build a tower without putting a cafe up there, right?
Obviously.
And so I'm at Wunderbar, and I'm looking around, and I'm surrounded by like maybe 20 people. They're just loving it. Many of them having their first burn, others just really enjoying the experience. I look up, I see the crow's nest, the tower's lit up at night, the zipline cables going off into the night, and we've been running people safely, right? We didn't have any broken arms or legs this year. A couple of lacerations and second-degree burns, but nothing major.
Safety third.
And more on that. But here's the deal. I had basically brought known quantities out to the playa. And I remember the elation I felt the first time I went in the crow's nest when we first built it at 36 feet. When we bumped it up to 52 feet again, that my heart was pounding. I was afraid but feeling alive. This year, we set all of our stuff up, and it worked great. And I was sitting there at Wunderbar just kind of feeling no joy. And I was thinking, like, this is stagnation.
Mm.
I brought a known thing out, and it worked. And right here now, only through my empathy can I really take joy. And I did, right? I mean, people were loving it, and I love that.
But you felt like it was, for lack of a better description, like it was easy. Like you already knew what to do. You've already met that. You knew you weren't challenging yourself any further just yet. And
I realized I've gotten myself into a bit of a pickle because I apparently am a bit of an adrenaline junkie, because the Tesla coil was never a reasonable project. It's 32 feet tall. It makes 20-foot sparks. Those are million-volt sparks. It's monstrously lethal. It's incredibly high power. It's a beast. And but to build it, I burned down my marriage. I burned down large swaths of my old life. Like, I used to be interesting. I rode motorcycles. I skied. I don't do that stuff anymore. My skis are in my attic. My motorcycle's dusty. I build shit for Burning Man.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I do. And
the dopamine you were getting from this was more of a rush.
And it's like, I want to build the next thing that's going to make me feel the way I felt.
Yeah.
Those times when I brought that giant new thing out. But I'm realizing, like, shit, there's a very real chance that if I don't try to find some kind of balance, I could very much end up under an overpass, homeless, building a scale model of my dream while I'm half crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like, that really could be me. I know that because when I was a kid, I met many of those dreamers, and they were just as destitute as you could imagine, right?
Looking back now with 20/20 hindsight, was there a moment that you think you could have made like a right turn instead of a left turn that wouldn't have affected your marriage the way that it did? Or was it already too late?
You know, she tried so hard. Just a few days before she left, she sat me down on the bed, and she's like, we're going to do a thing where we stare into each other's eyes, and we do that thing where we fall in love. Mm. And I was so out of it that I was like wanting to check Facebook on my phone. And I couldn't just stare my wife in the eyes for 5 minutes.
Oh.
I don't know how I got myself into that place, right? She tried. She fought right up till the end. And then when I guess when she was just done, she was done.
Yeah. Is she still burning?
Not that I know of.
Mm.
Yeah, she's a brilliant woman, and is, I'm sure, off in the world doing some really awesome stuff.
Yeah. So what's the biggest lesson that came for you as an artist? I mean, you found you need more balance, but what is that? What kind of shape does that take?
It's so fucking hard, because all the shit that I've done that I've really enjoyed apparently was shit that I did at great personal sacrifice and cost. And it's like, we had a meeting, a series of meetings with Sextant, sort of the big doers and movers and shakers in Sextant, when we got back from the burn this year, where I was like, okay, cool, what's our next project? Hey, let's do sustainability, right? Let's do this, but let's do it more mellow. And it's like herding cats, right? And if you let 6 people vote on a project, it's not going to be a very exciting project.
Right.
I'm not trying to run people down, but the thing that I am struggling with is that the shit that I really love, that has come to define who I really feel like I am, has been done way out on the fringe, totally unsustainably. Like I blew $100,000 in 2016 to come to Moxie, to give an unlimited budget to our electrical engineer. We tried every kind of circuit design you could imagine. We went solid state. That didn't work. We tried to go to what's called a spark gap, and we were machining like ancient analog devices to handle insane voltages and currents. That didn't work.
Right.
I was working with a Southern California company to make magnetic core components that were going to be part of that circuit. Those are doorstops that were like many thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And but it fucking worked,
yeah.
right? And so I don't know what the answer is right now. I have a vision of some things I want to build, and I think what I'm taking from this though is I don't need to be so worried about the money. I don't need to be so worried about the logistics. This last year has shown me that before I worry about any of that stuff, I need to work on me. I need to figure out, am I actually a contributor who can build and be a part of this amazing community? Mm. Is there a way for me to not be a total asshole that uses people and abuses the people around him to build his ideas, right? Like, if I can sort myself out, I think then I'll have earned the right to take the next steps.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm right now, is I'm trying to move on, and I'm trying to stop my 2-year temper tantrum and pity party.
Yeah.
Because I finally realized the world's not going to wait for me. You get acclaim and you get attention, and it goes to your head. You think you're special, and you think the whole world's just going to wait while you work your stuff out.
Yeah.
And when you hurt people, when you abuse them, and when you're selfish, you think the world's going to be like, oh, he means well. He could do better. Let's just give him another chance. Not so much.
Yeah.
Right? The world's got to go forward, and so do I, if I'm going to be relevant.
Yeah.
And I want to be relevant. I desperately want to be relevant.
Did your dad have any wisdom on this thing that you're going through?
My dad. He's awesome. My dad has consistently been one of the builders that I trust with my life at the top of my tower.
He's like watching your relationship with your wife deteriorate. Like, did he have input on this?
He had understanding from similar history. He had been through very similar things. I saw him when I was a kid. I saw a man who was juxtaposed between great acts of good and great acts of, just being a human. There was a selfish aspect. There was an aspect of like, it's about me. It's not about other people. And he's a wonderful human being. I think my dad and I we had sort of understanding. Like, he knew what I was trying to do, and he had respect for that. And I guess he never really warned me, and he probably could have, but I think he was simply able to understand, and that's not insignificant.
Right. What about your mom?
I would say pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she came out to Burning Man in 2014.
Nice.
That was the year we brought the Tesla Coil for the first time. We were supposed to be on Playa Monday of build week, a full week to build. Tesla Coil wasn't working. One of the towers collapsed and fell over.
Oh, wow.
In the tech shop parking lot, shattered on a Wednesday night.
Ugh.
Wednesday night of build week, and I'm at tech shop Mid-Peninsula in San Carlos. I should be on Playa.
Yeah.
With a giant tower and a Tesla Coil. We already know the Tesla Coil is not going to work. One of the towers falls. That was a rigging issue that we have locked down since. And I looked at the damage, and I realized I had about 7 seconds to keep the team going. And I just said, look, we just built that mast last night. We can rebuild it this morning. You know, and we rebuilt it, and we took it out. We got to Burning Man Saturday night of build week, you know, just hours before gates. We built that tower in 18 hours. I budget half a week for that with a crane. It was an absolute, like, heroic struggle to get to Burning Man in 2014. We'd been given the Esplanade, and I wasn't going to let them down. So we brought our non-functional Tesla Coil, and we put it up. And we talked to people about it.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, this is our project. We wanted it to spark. It doesn't. But check it out. You want to see some of the cool parts we've been working on? We think the problem might be here. We were wrong.
Yeah.
But we had our tower, and we had our zip line, and we had our cafe, and we had a great burn.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just cool. My mom and my dad came out. They were long since separated, but they came out to check out what their son had built.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. Like, so much of your trajectory, I can tell you from years of interviewing artists, like, so much of your trajectory is consistently enviable. You know, that you've had this, like, support from your parents, that you had these experiences and this kind of support base, and and yet, you know, you're still dealing with the same kind of struggles that everyone still has to deal with how it affects your relationships and how it affects the art that you're building and how it affects your leadership as a whole and the doubts that you have on your own.
It's an insane privilege to be able to go out and build this stuff, to be able to put that Sextant sign up, for me to be able to say, I'm Sarge, right? I'm that guy. In 2013, when I first was building, I had no idea what I was doing. I would describe myself then as a wannabe bro. I wished I could be a bro. That's kind of who I was back then.
Everyone rebels against their parents somehow.
I wished I could be one of the bros we have so much concern for these days.
You could come out with your featherhead dress. And...
Oh yeah. So I had built a dome and a tower, and it was maybe Wednesday or Thursday of build week. I don't know the exact date, but it was 2013, and I went for a walk in the city, just myself, and I went along the Esplanade, and I put in a couple hours just showing up to build sites and just kind of stepping in and picking stuff up and putting stuff down, and it kind of made me feel welcome, and I felt like, shit, these are the people I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be a part of this community of builders. And I walked into the back of the city. I didn't know where I was. It was somewhere out near Rods Road. And I was wearing like a white raver fur vest that I had bought because I thought that's what burners wore. And
is it real fur?
No. And I had gone to a couple of shows in the city with my burner friends and felt like I was cool. And it's a little bit embarrassing, but that was me. And I see this bar. I see this place, this dark place, and I see the black hole written on it. And as like an aerospace guy, I was like, oh, cool. And I go in there, and I walk in, and everyone's dressed like in kind of like black, and they're all really salty, right? You're seeing like characters. And I thought, like, shit, I think I may have stumbled into a place I'm not entirely welcome.
Everybody feels that way.
But I was like, shit, you know, I mean, this, if I'm polite, I'm sure we're fine. And I kind of walk up to the bar, and I wait there for like maybe 45 minutes while other people are getting approached by the bartender. The bartender is this gorgeous lady who's got all tattoos, and she's fucking awesome, and she's exhausted from working gate and interacting with her friends, her family, who have also been working their asses off. And I'm just this jackass sitting there. But I don't leave, right?
With your awesome vest.
Yeah. With white jeans. And I just hang out, and I'm thinking, like, I'll bet I can get through if I'm nice enough. And eventually this one guy walks up to me, and he's the saltiest of any of them. And he's like, how's it going? What are you doing here during build week? And I was like, what I said to him actually was, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be here. And what he said was, well, are you? What are you doing here during build week? And I said, well, last year was my first burn, and I wanted to come back with a zip line. And so I built a geodesic dome and a tower and a zip line. And he's like, what? He just warms up to me.
Yeah.
What? What did you build? What did you bring to our city? And I was like, holy shit. He gets me a drink. We start talking about it. His name was Shane. And Shane took me on a walk, and he's like, I want to see this thing. And so this began a tradition of late night walks through the back alleys of Black Rock City for me and Shane. Shane was sort of formerly a Gate Perimeter Exodus. Now he works for...
Look at that.
Hey, James. Yeah, I'll take that right here. We have been visited by James Heavy Metal Erd. James is the machinist that makes the metal at Sextant possible.
Beautiful. I love your glasses, James.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, my actual safety glasses, which is their original, but it looks like some kind of steam or diesel pump thing.
They do. Super cool.
Also very good if you're driving across the San Mateo Bridge at sunset and you still read the dials and see the car in front of me.
Well, thanks. So I'm telling the story when I met Shane Saw. So Shane doesn't go by Shane Saw anymore. His name is Shane Sisho. And he works for Art Support Services now. His name is Dream Crusher. And that's
Sarah's nickname.
Yes. Yeah.
What was is your playa name Dream Crusher?
I actually don't have a playa name yet, but that's what I consider myself in the real world. Dream Crusher with the job I do. So.
And what Shane actually does is he really helps people build their dreams. He goes out to help artists who are in some state of panic on playa, and he comes in and if it's ground anchors or if it's some kind of reinforcement or some kind of practical modification, Shane will work with them to make sure that their art does get built.
Right.
And so I think the Dream Crusher is a little tongue-in-cheek because artists tend to be a little bit idealistic. And so he kind of comes in to say, look, we're actually going to do this, but we may need to change a few things.
Right.
So Shane walks me through the back of the city, and I get to learn about the other half, right? And he introduces me to his friends who have been there for, like, what, a month? More will be on playa for a month. The lost boys and girls of the DPW, right?
Yeah.
And it was Shane actually in 2013 that he ended up. We ran the zip line at night, and Shane was the one that said, "Sarge, you need to go to the Esplanade." And in those days, I was thinking like, "Oh, we would never justify the Esplanade. We're just a tiny little camp." And I was thinking maybe we could run our zip line between two Esplanade camps, right? You know, as a way to kind of have this ultra minimal cross section. And Shane was like, "No, you want a 100 by 400 foot plot that ends in the Esplanade." And I was like, "Dude, our whole camp was, I think it was 50 by 100. That was our whole camp in 2013.
Yeah.
And he was like my coach. And he said, if you think you need it, ask for it. If you say you want to build a Tesla coil, build it. And if you need help, ask for it. And the weirdest thing is I feel the incredible privilege because I go out to build Sextant every year. And I've said this before, like with my trucks and my trailer and my crew and my techies and my Tesla coil, my tower, my zipline, I have a shipping container. I have my money and my health, right? And my mental health. And I take all these things, which I'm so privileged to have, and I get to build this glittering jewel. I get to build Sextant, right? And the strangest thing is for all my privilege and for all the gifts I've been given, the kids of the DPW working their asses off for nothing have never, ever given me anything but love, support, and praise, and thanks.
Yeah.
And that has always been... That's always been one of the things that's helped me to feel like our community is actually real and worthwhile. I constantly get terrified that we're really just making a desert rave.
Yeah.
And when this desert rave is over, we're going to be that much poorer, older, and less healthy. And we're going to have to go back to the world and pick up where we left off, having wasted all that. And
you say that like it's a negative thing.
I actually feel like Burning Man is very much alive and well. Like we can be the beating heart of what the human race could be. You know, I feel like Black Rock City is this bubble we create that's so big, this spell we cast is so profound that 70,000 people can exist in it for a week. To me, it's like one possible future for the human race.
Yeah.
And it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It wouldn't be worth having if it wasn't.
It really wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's so strange that, like, I can wait all year so that I can go be super exhausted with Shane and we'll go to the DPW ghetto and drink some whiskey together to be among friends. What is it that you would wait an entire year just so you could be exhausted among exhausted people? And
what's wrong with us?
Like, you know, what kind of a feeling are you peddling that's worth that? And yet here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the experience of Burning Man is the ultimate psychedelic. You know, it pushes you to see the darkest corners of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
And then the high that comes out of that experience is much higher than any experience you'd have just, you know, at a happy hour or a club.
Speaking of highs, one of the difficult lessons that I've taken from all this is I feel like we have the ability to lift people up with Burning Man. We have the ability to lift them up, throw off the constraints, let someone actually exist. I like to say it's like we're illuminating their spirit creature, right? Yeah. They get to really be alive at Burning Man. But what I've learned is that if we feel that we're leaders and if we feel like we are helping people have that experience, if we're curating that experience for people, I feel like we also have the responsibility to help set them down gently from how high we've lifted them up. I was approached by a member of Mobility Camp about the possibility of bringing people in wheelchairs down the zip line.
Right.
In 2015 during the year. And at Burning Man 2015, I walked over to a Mobility Camp and, you know, tried to continue that conversation. I met a guy named Trevor, and Trevor had suffered a spinal stroke where a tiny clot had actually caused him to be paralyzed in his legs. And it's a strange thing. It wasn't like a mechanical injury. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned it to him, and he just immediately was like gung-ho. He's like, let's do this. You want to do wheelchair zipline? Fucking A. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, I was a little nervous. And he's like, yeah, okay, here's a spare wheelchair. And we cruise over to Sextant, which was not too far away. And we spent 3 days rigging up a chair for Trevor that we could suspend from our attachment point. And it turns out, like, all my assumptions about what it takes to work with a mobility challenge person are just dead wrong. Like as a layperson, I was just totally unprepared to understand the realities of what it's like to be mobility challenged. But there was Trevor. And so he led us through, and it was actually James who just dropped in, who worked with Trevor to build this harness, this seat.
Can you describe like one very specific technical challenge that came out of that?
Okay, you got to take the wheels off a wheelchair, suspend it from 4 points so it can handle like probably 250-pound dude.
Right.
And so you're actually like, they're sitting in a chair, but the chair is just, you know, aluminum tubing joined with plastic. It's not like a welded cage. You know, it sits on wheels and rolls around on the ground, and here we're going to take it high off the ground. So they were able to rig up a safe chair. And we ended up doing something extremely illegal, which was we put a pallet on the forks of a VR forklift, and we just put Trevor on the pallet, and I was able to go on that, and we just forked him all the way up 45 feet in the air. Wow. Clipped in 48 feet. up on the cable. It took 6 people at the bottom of the zip line to catch Trevor. And I have this awesome YouTube video of this experience where we do the countdown and he goes. And we actually sent a fucking paralyzed guy down a goddamn zip line at Burning Man. And that was awesome. That was amazing. I had people coming up to me saying, I've been kind of watching you guys for the last few days. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen at Burning Man. And to me, someone who's looking for acceptance and still hasn't internalized all this, that meant a lot, right?
Absolutely.
And turns out Trevor had just moved to Oakland. So he was close by. It's like, holy shit, dude. We're destined to be lifelong friends.
Yeah.
So Trevor comes out to an East Bay Burners event right after the burn, and he gets like a hero's welcome. It's like, it's fucking Trevor to the zip line with Sextant, right? And I'm thinking, like, this is the shit. My wife had just left, but I was thinking, well, shit. The stuff that I was doing was not all a waste. There was fulfillment and goodness in what I was doing. Towards the end of the night, Trevor was kind of getting lonely, and I think he was a little pissed off that we were going to go dancing, and he was like, shit, I want to go, but I can't go. And I go to the city, and I get out, I don't know, 2 a.m. or something, and I'm a Facebook whore, so I whip out my phone and check Facebook, and I see Trevor's posted all this really negative shit. Like, really negative stuff. Like, oh, these guys, they're not my friends, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I hate drama, right? I don't always feed it, but I had sort of the instinct to call him. And I call him up and I say, dude, what's up? And he's like, you don't love me, you're not my friend. I just took a bunch of pills and I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to take the rest of them now. I was like, whoa, Trevor.
This is here in Oakland, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, Trevor, I can't tell you what to do, but shit, I feel like we're friends. He's like, you're not my friend. And I was like, well, hold on, man. We've only known each other for 2 weeks, but look what we did in these 2 weeks. It was his first burn. We sent you down a zip line. We spent days building the harness. We were going to work with you to learn how to do that legally.
Yeah.
Maybe make like a wheelchair accessible man cage so we could actually lift people from mobility camp up, get that view. And he's like, and I was like, look, man, I've only known you for a few days, but in the time I've known you, I felt like we did some things that were actually pretty cool. Maybe I'm not your best friend, but I don't feel like I'm a total false friend. And he's like, shit, you're right. And he said, you're right. No, we did do a good thing. And I was going to take the rest of these pills. You just saved my life. And then he passed out and died.
Oh my gosh.
Over the phone, right? And I spent the next 30 minutes like frantically trying to find out where he was physically. He had just moved. No one knew his address. Eventually the law enforcement person that I spoke with that night called me up in the morning and said they finally found him. He was dead. And there were many times during that night that I could have had things go differently. I could have recognized that Trevor was feeling lonely. I could have empathized and understood that maybe he's not going to dance, but let's just drag his ass out with us. Yeah. He'll be there with us. That's all he wanted, I think. And ultimately, I just had to write it all out and, put a message out on Facebook about the story of the night, and what had happened. And Trevor's suicide was the first one that was personal and very close to me, but I've come to be aware that we lift people up, and when we set them down, it can be a very harsh come down.
Yeah.
That there's a huge suicide problem in the DPW, where you've got the lost boys and girls of Burning Man that go out and spend 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, building this city, giving me that playa to build on in my entitled state, right? This, like, super engineer with this giant truck and trailer and 50 people, right? I get to go and have all this fun. Meanwhile, they're out there in this windswept playa a month before and a month after, just there for each other. And the thing is, it's not so much that they're suffering at Burning Man. It's just, if you look at your own life, what would your life be like if you said, hey, I'm going to take a 3-month unpaid vacation? What do you come back to? You come back to getting fired if you had a job, evicted, your stuff's on the street, your tools are stolen. Like, that's the reality that many of the kids in the DPW face. And, you know, it's like when you're out on Playa, everything's magic and it's worth it. And it's a shared sacrifice. There's camaraderie. Even if you're exhausted, that whiskey tastes so good with your friend, right? It's what happens when we send them back to the world and they're trying to keep the dream alive.
Yeah.
You know, they band together, they get shared housing. But I've said this before, it's like there's a grinding scarcity that sets in and it just starts gnawing at the fabric of this community. And there are suicides. Yeah. Every year there are suicides of people who just couldn't take it anymore, right? And the thing is, most of them don't commit suicide. Most of them will make it through the year somehow, working whatever odd jobs they can, just to get back out there, just to be out there with their people one more time. And there's a fatigue, right? This incessant fatigue that you can see in them. And I guess I feel some kind of a flavor of it, but it's got to be like the Diet Coke version. I mean, they go out there for a dream, right? They go out there for this dream of community and camaraderie and a better world. And I feel like we kind of let them down when it all comes down and we say, hey, thanks for building the city. I'll see you next year. Yeah. If you make it.
Yeah. It's the higher the high, you know, the harder the crash, right? It's right. A similar thing that Trevor experienced to some extent. Its connection to the themes of your experiences. Dr. Megabolt, you know, you're up on this high pedestal so that when you come back out to default and things are not as aligned as the way they felt when you were at your peak at your cafe on top of the Sextant, it all comes crashing back a little bit. And that's, some people's brains have a harder time doing that. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is a running theme. It is post-burn blues. That was a question I was going to ask about you. Like your first year's post-burn blues versus, you know, experiences you've had since.
Oh man, you come back from your first burn and you don't know what you just experienced, but you want it again. Yeah, yeah. And you think one of the biggest horrors coming back from your first burn is, oh my God, I will only ever get to have that for 1 week out of the year in perpetuity. Mm. So you're like, how many years am I going to live? How many weeks of Burning Man will I ever get again? Less than a year of this amazing feeling. And the thing is, that's actually totally not true. On a positive note, the things we do out at Burning Man are things that we can absolutely take back here. You know, we're sitting at the Moxie build space in Oakland, and I could look down and actually see my Tesla coil. Yeah. Right? Those toroids. We have community workshops all year long. I get to torch little titanium pendants and give out these cool little man pendants. And we get these year-long builds. That's what I love about mega projects, is you get a bunch of people together working on something united. When you go out in the Bay Area and you go dancing, usually you're dancing to a DJ you might have heard at Burning Man. Yeah. And that DJ probably built the stage they're playing on. And that DJ may very well be like a roboticist that you met at Tech Shop that just happens to love electronic music and is willing to do that because they're not making any money doing this. Yeah. Burning Man is a never-ending journey for at least for me and for the people that I seem to associate with. The people that build the city, I mean, a lot of the people that I've had conversations with at org, you know, like, Burning Man is just the one event. It's the one time. It's our comic book convention. That's what I look at it as. Oh, yeah. It's the one time we all come together, but it's all happening the rest of the year. And, like, that's what breaks my heart about Trevor's story. I feel like if he'd, like, hung in there for a couple of more weeks, he would have seen that this is still alive. He could still find people. He could find new friends. And something that helped me a lot with Trevor was numerous members of his family reached out to me and said, Trevor has been doing cries for help and suicide attempts his whole life before the injury as well to his spine, his paralysis. So his depression and his attempts on his life were not like directly related to his condition or Burning Man. I think we just lifted him up a little higher.
Sure. So the crash was even harder. Yeah.
But he had done it before. He had woken up in the emergency room with his stomach pumped before. Yeah. And that helped me process a little bit. This stuff is real. I just feel like if we're going to work this hard and if we're going to sacrifice this much, we might as well be doing something that's worthwhile.
Right. A couple of... We're wrapping up here, getting close to the end over here. If you could go back in time and give advice to the you from 2014, what would it be?
That's really hard. It's really hard. If my intent was to save my marriage, I think I could have. I try so hard not to write the script for what I would say, because the path of what might have been is so painful. I am haunted by her ghost to this day. I have dreams and nightmares, and she's gone, and I need to just let her go. If I was going to go back to 2014, what would you say? What would you say, like, if there was nothing ever graceful about how we built that thing. If I had said build it gracefully, it would have been 5 feet tall and not 32 feet tall. That's the riddle, right? That I'm working on right now, is how can I build things that matter to me, that are big enough or grand enough or beautiful enough to represent who I am. How can I build the Queen of Black Rock City? It's one of the projects we're talking about. It's a giant queen chess piece, 110 feet tall. It's our super tower, basically. How can I build the Queen and be a Silicon Valley engineer with a life and a future? Yeah. That's $50,000 of stainless steel. and like, I'm not inclined to not build her. Yeah. I'm just aware of what it's going to cost, how much pain and how much suffering it may bring to like bring it into existence. I don't know. I have tracked down every single artist who's built things that mattered to me, like Otto, Matt, Marco, and others, and there's not one of them that will be able to tell you there's some easy answer that you tell that kid in 2014, so it would just work out. Like, it's almost like more along the lines of, this is going to hurt you very, very deeply. Yeah. And it's possible that you may grow into something that you need to as a result of all that pain. Right. I've said before that, as a wannabe bro, maybe I needed to get broken, and Burning Man was a sufficiently strong reef upon which I could wreck myself. Yeah.
In short, I feel like Shane's influence on you was dream bigger. So imagine a listener is listening right now and they've attended their first burn and they had that same experience where they left and they said, all right, I'm ready to fucking build some huge shit.
Hell yeah.
What is your advice to that listener?
My advice is, don't think it through too much. If you've got a dream, fucking build it. So start sketching it. Make a scale model of it with sticks. Go to your local makerspace and they'll show you how to go bigger if you need some help. Feel free to volunteer on a mega project just to kind of get some situational awareness. But you don't have to. You don't have to go through all the hoops and eventually 10 years from now be qualified to build. Yeah. If you want to build something big, fucking do it. If you think it through too much, you're probably not going to start. Like, I remember when the Temple of Promise was a little laser cut scale model that Jazz Tegan was was carting around from burner event to burner event. And although Temple of Promise ended up being a very painful build, it was beautiful. And that temple was real. And that vision of one kid ended up being our city's temple that year. And if you want to build something big, do it. But understand that you're going to have to be the cheerleader. So it's up to you to cast that spell on people. So draw your sketch, build your model, and understand that you need to make people love it just as much as you do. And if you do that, it will take on a momentum, and it will gain momentum, and you will be able to build this thing. And please, 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 please try to honor the people that come out to build for you, because they want this to be successful so much, and this shit goes to your head fast.
Yeah.
If it's possible for you to not be an abusive asshole, Torrey, do your best.
So we've spoken quite a bit about how you're in a chapter of reflection in your life right now. What's the plan for next year? Are you going to bring all this stuff out again? Are you going to expand? Are you going to take a couple of years and do the same?
Sure. Well, first of all, the man's only, 100 feet tall, 40 feet tall, 50 feet tall. Mm. I want to build a 750-foot tall man. I've got some stuff over in the Moxie space. Yeah. I'm working on a new method of building large-scale organic surfaces out of wooden geodesics. So it's sort of like a triangular lattice laid across, like a human body. Kind of like what Marco Cochran does with the Bliss Project, those beautiful stainless steel women.
Yeah.
I think I could do that with 2x4s at a really big scale. That's something we're working on. The Sextant Tower at 52 feet is no longer giving me the thrills it once did. Yeah. And it's also starting to show some age. There was some scarcity of thinking from when I first built it that when I look at it now, I could do much better. So I want to replace the Sextant Tower with a 110-foot queen chess piece. I want to call her the Queen of Black Rock City. I want her to be this intense symbol of feminine power, which as sort of like a young guy is something I could do well to ponder.
There's definitely some humor in the fact that you're looking to have a bigger and bigger erection at Black Rock City to communicate the feminine power.
So I feel like the Queen is almost like a really nifty way to address that, right? Because everyone gives me shit over this phallic tower with these Tesla coil things, and like the Queen chess piece is the most powerful piece on the board. Yeah. And even for people who identify somewhere on the gender spectrum or off it, Queen can have some meaning. So I'm just hoping that I can be enough of a good person that I could build something like this and have her be beautiful. Yeah. And not taint her with myself. Besides that, Dan of the Tesla Coil, he's made it really clear that he needs some kind of a new project that's going to be challenging enough to keep him going to Burning Man, because he's not there for the party. He's there to build stuff. And to that end, we are starting to work on some interesting robotics. And we're talking about maybe building a 60-foot mechanical Black Widow spider powered by 2 helicopter turboshaft engines. I want her to carry about 40 passengers and do 65 miles an hour. Wow. Outside of Burning Man. And the idea is liquid, smooth, organic robotics. I can't stand robots. They're clunky and they're slow and they're stupid. And if we're going to do a robot, it's got to be organic. It's got to be alive, right? And Dan thinks that with the combination of some really good wiring and a learning process and a neural network, we may be able to make and this is where I step in a little bit as a cheerleader. I describe it as almost like a minimally conscious artificial intelligence to be the spider. Right. You don't tell the spider where to put its foot, you tell the spider where to go, and it figures out what to do with its legs. And with this year's theme for 2018 of iRobot, we're thinking maybe we might work on like a humanoid. robot, like a little 4-foot tall girl maybe that could dance and be a little robot.
Yeah, we all might as well get comfortable with the future citizens of the world we're going to be living in.
Right?
Might as well get them out there.
So Sextant has no shortage of ideas. What we're doing right now is we're soul searching. We're trying to find, can there be a balance? Can there be a sustainability in our little collective? I feel that there can. And I also feel like it might take us a few more weeks, a few more months to really process this. I've forced people to build giant art for my sake before. I'm hoping I never ever do that again. I hope that I can be the kind of leader that can rally people to a good cause for a shared common interest, right? And I'm working hard on that. I hope I can be that guy.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to reconnecting maybe a year from now and seeing what happened, how this all played out, and if you made the giant spider and the stuff of my nightmares. That's where it goes.
Mama Spider is going to take you on a journey. She'll teach you that she loves you. Some of these projects are multi-year projects. A 750-foot man, are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's a 10, 20-year project. But the thing is, I'm going to get 10 and 20 years older. So are we all, if we're lucky. I think I've finally understood that getting old building giant robot spiders would kick ass, right? So, this journey is exquisite, and I'm really not ready to give it up. I want to be on this ride, and I want to share it. I want to help other people experience what it felt like.
And I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you've done and your collective has done, all that you've brought to Black Rock City, all the work that you do year-round to build community, and in the ways that all of the sacrifices you've made that have made the experience for us more beautiful and incredible. Thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for sitting down with us and telling us the story.
Well, with our final moments,
right,
I have a gift for you in the spirit of gifting.
Yeah.
A dear friend of mine, Philippe Glad, is like a 20-year burner, and he's been walking around Black Rock City photographing the crazy shit that people build out there. And
it's beautiful.
I was able to show my mom, like, Mom, they put us in a book. That meant a lot to me. And I wanted to give you a copy of that. It's a great little coffee table book.
This is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, the new ephemeral, is that the word? Architecture of Burning Man. That is gorgeous.
It's amazing. This was one of the first tastes I had that this community really loved you if you add to it. And to be in that book and to build stuff and get the kind of acclaim that we do, like, that feels incredible. And I think my task now is just learning how to be graceful and internalize it and not go to that dark place.
Yeah.
Be that happy little kid making cool stuff and sharing it with people. As a kid, I built sandcastles, and that was some of my happiest moments. Right? Was having people go, "Whoa, cool!"
Yeah.
I want to be that guy. I don't want to be this other guy. So thank you for seeing that in me, and I'm going to do my best.
Absolutely. I want to hear the rest of the story. Thank you, Torrey.
Sorrow, there's no need for despair.
All right, Torrey Pines Smith in Oakland. You are now hearing tunes by Ian Shore, aka DJ BamBoom. BamBoom sounds kind of like bamboo, if you might have noticed, because Ian is an adorable panda. This set was recorded opening Sunday night at sunset at the Mystical Misfits camp on 430 and C. On Tuesday night, Ian was celebrating his own birthday and ended up breaking his elbow. Basically, here's what happened. A whiskey-fueled Ian was riding a one-wheel around Greeter's Gate at 2 a.m., which led to the inevitable shit-eating which resulted in a dislocated and fractured left elbow. So Ian is taken to Rampart, where they pump him full of morphine and ketamine cocktail, and they reset his elbow, and he's in a K-hole, so he doesn't actually feel any of this happening. And the next morning, he's taken to Reno Hospital, and that was basically his Burning Man. He had to leave. In Reno, they x-rayed his arm, and the doctor says, whoever reset your elbow is a genius. It's in perfect alignment. Do you remember the name of the doctor? To which Ian responds, some guy in a tutu named Flapjack. So Flapjack, we salute you, sir, and dedicate this episode to you. You can find DJ BamBoom over at facebook.com/DJ BamBoom. That's spelled BamBoom. And visit soundcloud.com/DJ BamBoom to hear the rest of this set. Please give us a like on Facebook and join the group. We'd love to see some more discussions happening in there. And leave us some reviews on iTunes or whatever other platform you listen to podcasts on. It helps get the show more visible so that more of our tribe can be a part of this conversation. All the links are over at burnerpodcast.com. You can connect with me directly on all the social medias at Mr. Arash. That's MRARASH. I am most active on Facebook and Instagram, but you can tweet me and stuff as well. Burner Podcast is produced by Rebel Dharma along with associate producer Tori Massey and is released on the first and third Wednesdays of the month and is available on Stitcher, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeart Radio, TuneIn Radio, among many, many others. The show is not hard to find. We thank you, dear listeners, for all of your support. Our opening theme music, America's Horse with No Name remix, is produced by Joman. Check out his music over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Good night. Take it away, DJ BamBoom.
travel south crosswind, put out the fire and don't look past my shoulder. The exodus is here, the happy ones are near. Let's get together before we get much older.
To the sound of your fleeting heart. Wake up to the sound of your fleeting heart. When you go to leave, it's a work of art on the chest and the heart. And oh, I'm feeling fine. We made it to the coastline. to the sound of your fleeting heart. Wake up to the sound of your fleeting heart. When you go to leave the world apart. When you go to leave the world apart. Chest on my heart. My love is yours, but your love's not mine. So I'll go, but we know I'll see you down the line. And we'll hate what we've lost, but we'll love what we find. And oh, I'm feeling fine. We made it to the coastline.
myself? Why do I scream for pleasure? It's 4 in the morning, should know better. Why do I kid myself? Why do I scream for pleasure? Why do I kid myself? Why do I scream for pleasure? It's 4 in the morning, should know better. But you can't weave a spell. I want to raise myself. Hard to remember in the morning.
burnerpodcast.com.